Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for an early episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me as always is my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends. Welcome to the daylight.
Yeah, it's a lot brighter in your office. I recently had some changes. You're going to be surprised, Tom, by the back of my house when you get here next month.
You guys put up a fence, right? Or did you do the whole deck?
I did the whole shooting match back there. So hence why this is now light as opposed.
Yeah,
to
I see that. Yeah, you have a window. I have an entire wall of windows right here. Hence why it's so bright during the day.
I never realized how much I liked living in my cave until the sunlight came in and I.
Yeah.
But anyways,
you can put cardboard there.
I could. Yeah, that'll look real pro. Okay. So, we are going to be talking about the bad rules of AOS. Overall, good, very, very good game, but there are some rules that maybe are problematic, and we're going to talk about those and why they're problematic.
We're not going to be overly critical.
No, but we're going to be straight.
But we're going to be straight. That's exactly right.
As we do here. Okay. So yes, the early show is because right after this will be a short show, by the way. I'm going to warn everybody right up top. This is going to be like an hour tops, everyone. So I apologize. We got to do a fairly quicker show because I need to get on the road. I have to drive like 9 hours today. So
keeping it fast and tight.
Fast and tight. Let's start with the news.
A 40K hammer next.
Yep, that's what it is. Next. It's going to be a squat thing. Awesome. Cool.
Yes. Sylvaneth preview. Yeah,
man. Yeah, so we
is this your army for the fall?
It could be. I don't know. It very well could be. I'm not going to say no. Who knows?
I could paint some trees.
I did paint up the Lady of Vines, as I talked about last week, and she's super cool. I like her a lot. And I mean, I want to see what the book looks like. I want to. Hopefully, if they move to you can just overgrow pieces of terrain as sort of the main way that you expand your footprint, and like maybe you summon woods or something.
Yep.
I tell you what, they're gonna really radically change my view of that army. I mean, I love my Sylvaneth. You know that.
Yeah.
I went when Sylvaneth got previewed. Tom remembers this back in the day when Sylvaneth got previewed. I was like, I'm totally in for this army. I went day one and bought everything.
The entire line. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the army.
Like I did with KO.
It was just, it hit. I really think it's a beautiful army. My problem with it has always been the woods. Because it's like, hey, now you've enjoyed the beautiful army, now also paint 50 terrain pieces, and I'm just not in for that. So,
well, here's what I'll say.
See.
I'm going to stake it now.
Okay.
If you do Sylvaneth, I will do a Wanderer heavy Living City.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the books. All right. Yeah, there's no new book coming for that, so you're good there.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fine.
You're golden for at least a year.
I'll get 6 months out of that army. That'll be better than most.
All right, so more to come on that. The rules previews that were there were good. I like everything I'm seeing so far. It's all positive signs. We'll see if it continues. Why are we doing an early show? People asked. Because I have to go drive like 9 hours later today. There'll be 2 of these this month, by the way. So.
Vince is doing a fun weekend, blah, 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 blah.
It's not a fun weekend. Well, it is going to be fun, I suppose. But it's also work. Yes, it's both. At any rate, I'll be at TMX this weekend. So if you happen to be up at TMX, I'll see you there. But I have some other... I'm heading up to go see Sam and Adam because we have to take care of a bunch of game stuff and then TMX and stuff like that for the upcoming game. So, all right, cool. What else we got? There was a third news item, right? Something else.
My son is playing charades.
Oh, okay.
Wesley, this is a short show. You have 10 seconds. Go.
That's fine. I'll let him deal with that. The other short news item is we got the. No, you're fine.
I'm back.
Good. Welcome back. We got the preview of our first AOS Warhammer Plus show. We saw Hamilcar. So
yeah,
it's cool.
Good on that dude. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll use my Warhammer Plus subscription.
Hey, maybe so. Now hold on, Doug. That is not what I said. I've played my Sylvaneth a ton. Okay. I didn't say I've never engaged with them. I said I said I don't like them because of the trees.
Yeah, I mean, you've played them before.
Yeah, I played Sylvaneth a bunch. Yeah, it's regularly featured. I just never summoned additional woods. I always built lists where I was like, this is my one woods. I'm not doing any more of these.
I don't need woods. Go on.
And so hence I didn't have the best time playing the army. That's what happened. Yeah. Anyways. So that's that. That's all the news. Quick and simple. Let's get started. We're gonna skip everything else because what I'm hobbying on, I can't share with you accidentally this week because I got excited about something, and so I'm painting something you'll see in the future. And what Tom is working on is a whole army.
I mean, it's like 30 some Nighthaunt models. You know, this is what happens. New book releases and out with the old, in with the new. You have to rotate stuff. And I may or may not have an event in like 9 days. Mm-hmm. So here we go.
There you go. So Tom is busy. Wait, you're working on what, 30 models, right? I think, is that right?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, painting up all the new ghosts. So if you didn't watch our ghost review show, go check it out. I mean, Tom, you obviously came around big on that army. You moved through your 5 stages of army acceptance pretty quick on that one.
Well, winning an event the week before with the army, like
jazzed you up a little.
Pre-nerf, yeah, or pre like perks, and already having a mostly done army, like already playing with some of the new rules. I felt pretty good about it. I still think that there are some points that are off, but you know that happens. You just don't play those units. Like my Black Coach sits on the shelf.
Yep. Artorias, yeah, I mean, I have a full Ratcast army. I still have more figs I haven't painted. I'm actually taking one with me this weekend. I might work on some, so.
I mean, Vince took it to both Holy Wars and Holy Havoc.
Yeah. I mean, I have more than 2,000 points painted. So now it's just painting stuff whenever I feel like it. All right. Let's get to our main topic. Fast. Let's talk about some bad rules. Okay. We're moving quick today. Bad rules. Unrelated Lumineth picture here to start us off. No reason why there would be a Lumineth image on the cover of this discussion. Don't read anything into that. It's not at all indicative of anything. Just complete and total happenstance. Just wanted a cool piece of art in a portrait layout. Nothing more for that.
It just dawned on me that all of my critiques, I think almost all of my critiques are found in the Lumineth army.
There's one that isn't. One of yours isn't.
One of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting observation.
Yeah.
Go on.
All right, so let's hit the summary here first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Age of Sigmar is a good game. I'm gonna come down and like that's it. I'm easily going to plant my flag on that. I love this game. I've played a ton of this game. I had an awesome game on Memorial Day, actually, since we had a holiday here in the U.S. Our mutual buddy Dan came over, and we got a great game in. A game that I really thought I was going to lose, and he was way out in front at the beginning, and then managed to pull it out. Like, it was a fantastic, all the way through the whole thing game.
Was he playing his award-winning Slaves to Darkness army?
No, he was running Nurgle.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Against Skaven, and I went for like all infantry, so all of his like I do mortal wounds to things,
and you're like
really
cool,
effective.
Cool.
Well, he's just swishing on me with Blight King dudes on bugs, and they were just swishing on me.
Yeah,
doing their little swish.
Oof.
It was a lot. But at any rate, the meta's tightening. More books are competitive. The new books coming out in 3.0 are really wonderful. Like I honestly don't think we've gotten a bad book in 3.0, and all the problems were in the first 2 launch books, which were probably made very early. Every book that's come out, like, that is to say, Oryx and Stormcast are the books that have problems.
Sure.
But, like, everything since then has been very solid. These are all positives. Yeah. But there are some concerns of overall rules complexity. I'm glad the books are going to simpler implementations, but it's still there. We can't hide from it. The game has probably gotten too high of a barrier to entry. I want to
I know that
one more thing.
I know that. Yeah, what I will go ahead.
Okay. There are some rules that are just bad, and they point to larger challenges within the system or third rails that can't be crossed. Okay, go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't know that I fully disagree with that, because I think that I think the doc book, all of the problems that were in the doc book persisted from the prior edition. Like, I don't know that they fixed anything in doc.
I think they definitely did, but it's a question of, like, if you want to determine fix to just be, does that mean, like, they soft incentived some of the bad things and they up incentived other playstyles, which is a fix.
Sure. I mean, it is, but if things were problematic before, incentivizing other playstyles don't change if people continue, like, if it's still there to be selected. Does that make sense? It's still a bad play experience. But anyways, so
that's fine. I think the doc book's great. I mean, I've played it a couple times and really enjoyed it. So, but I get you. I never ran Shooty Snakes, so it was never on my radar. I'm just happy I can actually, like, play doc the way I want to play doc and feel like I'm giving a good game now. Which is good.
I've played against Shooty Snakes multiple times, and it is a bad experience.
No, I understand. I mean, I have as well. It's at tournaments, and it is what it is. PSG says Nurgle fly coherency is horrific. 3-inch coherency for models with substantial wings, please. Those wings are so stupid. The funny part is he didn't have any of the wings attached because he just put the army together, so he hadn't put any of the wings on yet. So it was really easy. All its coherency was a dream. Okay. So, let's get into some specifics. So here's how this is going to go. Tom and I have each chosen. We each selected 3 rules specifically, and then I kind of took those and we're going to build them into the larger context, because certainly these aren't the only examples of these things. So if we don't hit the specific bad rule you want, my hope is that it falls into one of the 6 categories we've identified, because I truly believe these 6 categories are the home of most bad rules. Like, they're the overarching issue, the root cause analysis. If we were to do it, you'd get to this place with any one of these specific things.
Yeah.
Okay. So our first one is impossible abilities. Okay. Yeah. And the one I've selected here is the example. Some of these have multiple examples, some have one. But this one only has one. And I've selected the Beast Lord's Grizzly Trophy ability. Okay? So, this is the most wackadoo command ability. One of the most wackadoo ones you can find. There are others. There are certainly other examples of impossible abilities. You can use this command ability in the combat phase if any attacks made by a friendly Beast Lord with this command ability resulted in an enemy model being slain that phase. Which I have his attack profile up there. 6 attacks on 3s and 3s, neg 1/1 on a 5 wound dude with like a 4-up save. Look out for this guy.
So he has to activate an attack first.
Correct. Before the unit, and he has no like chain activation thing. So that's right away terrible. You activate with him first or your unit can get slaughtered. That gets the bonus. If you do so, until the end of that phase, you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Brayherd units wholly with an 18. If any attacks made by that Beast Lord resulted in enemy hero or monster being slain, which, good luck. I don't know what miracle you just pulled off there. You can reroll both hit and wound rolls. Okay? Yeah. So, I call this an impossible ability, not because it's actually impossible. Of course this has happened in games somewhere.
If this, and if also this, then this. But even when you do this, and then this happens, what is this even going to matter?
Right, and let's remember, he couldn't have issued this is a combat phase command ability, right? So that means on doing his attacks, he didn't, like, issue himself an all-out attack or something.
Right.
Right? Now,
and it's an aura ability, so he has to issue the command to himself.
Correct.
So he couldn't have even had somebody else issue it.
Issue to him. Exactly.
Right. Because he has to receive this area effect.
He has to both issue and receive it. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's crossing over with the other most valuable things we would want to use, right? Like all-out defense or something, or all-out attack. And so this, like I said, there's a broad category of abilities like this. And when I say they're impossible, the problem with them is they're so gated and rarefied. It's not that they actually can't happen. It's just they happen so unbelievably rarely that you're just not even going to remember to use it, and or it's not going to be your priority in that phase because you needed to do other things to win, and or it's making you make bad play decisions. Right?
Or it's just not impacting the game. So there are some abilities that would fit in this category that I think they don't even end up impacting the game. And so, for example, like the Alarith Stone Guards, like Tectonic, like the movie thing.
Yeah, they're Tectonic Force.
Yeah, like it. Not only is it not doing a lot, but actually, like, as one regular Luminath, Martin Orlando, had commented, like, the more you look at it, the worse the ability actually is.
Right.
Yeah.
So this ends up being, somebody said, should rules have or Amusing Park said, should rules have a hard stop at one prerequisite condition and one action? My argument would be that's a good guideline to go by. And by the way, the one prerequisite should be clearly defined, and the action, like deeper than that, the action should be immediately following that thing.
Right.
One of the other things that can lead to this is if this and this, then this thing happens later. That's your real worst case scenario for an impossible ability, right? Because then you've set up some trigger that may or may not happen later that's effectively another gate. One of those gates being you remember to do the thing.
Right.
And
I know the mental load of that is significant.
Right. And I know that sounds silly.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's a lot of mental load on people playing this game. You're trying to remember, who used a command ability, who didn't, what special abilities do I have, what special rules are on the war scrolls involved in this fight, what order should I activate in, what am I doing next turn, where do I need to go, what's the scores, how many people do I have on this objective, right?
Yeah.
Am I achieving my battle tactic, all this stuff. The last thing you need to be thinking about is some additional trigger that has no direct way for you to remember it later. So whenever the thing that happens is triggering you, it should be immediate. So I just hate abilities like this. I think they're a bad rule. Because one, they make you make bad play decisions. Yep. Two,
or they incentivize you to make bad play decisions.
They incentivize you to make bad play decisions. Absolutely right. And then two, it's so rarefied. Like, you're asking a model to do a task it's just not good at. It just shouldn't be doing. Right, I get it. Right. We all want to in our heads go like, oh, the Beast Lord is so cool. He's such a, like, he's this awesome Lord of the Beastmen who's, blah, 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 and real tough in combat. Yeah, he's not. I don't care what your narrative says. He's not. He's a little doof. He's a little doofus. Okay? I'm sorry. Like, I have a lot of Beast Lords in my Beast of Chaos army because I think the model's awesome. All the different models they've made over the years. And this is just a bad ability. And he's not a combat character. They're bad in general at combat characters, and so tying an actual command ability to this thing, doing that thing it's bad at, woof. Yes, Gut Ripper Shields absolutely fall under this. 100%. Gut Ripper Shields actually fall into a couple of these categories, Ghost Mutton. Well, you'll see another one later that falls into this.
Yep.
So, at any rate, that's my first one. So what type of sin is this? I've called upon my Catholic upbringing for all of this. And so, you got two different types of sins, venial and mortal, right? And so, a venial sin is minor. You can get forgiveness from this. That doesn't permanently injure your relationship with God, right? So this is just a venial sin in my mind. Okay, this one.
Because you can ignore it.
You can just ignore it. Yeah. Right, exactly. That's what happens.
Like, this command ability is ipsum lorem text on the unit. Now you just look at it and is this thing worth the points for what it does without this thing? Right.
Most of the time you can either choose to ignore the ability or ignore the model. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So now, what's the penance here for this sin? whoever wrote these rules has to use only beast lords as heroes and see how many like that's the only heroes they're allowed to take. They must run a Beast of Chaos army and use only beast lords for at least 5 games and see how many times they get this to trigger. And then they must realize that they should write a real command ability. Being in the combat phase is already opportunity cost enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think about what you did.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Okay. All right. So, next up. This one I'm just calling massive NPE. Okay? There is a broad category of bad rules that fall under this.
Okay.
Now, here's the trick. Not everybody and every player will hate any of these rules. NPE is not a universal thing. We've done a whole show on negative play experience. Different players rate different elements, different things differently. And there is always a cohort of players, no matter how small or minimal, that will enjoy the challenge of playing against rules, no matter how punishing, crippling, or awful.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you are one of those people, cool beans. No problem. But I'm not concerned with you. You're going to be fine. They can apparently just write anything, and you're good. You'll just live through it, you masochists. Yeah. But you should be playing Slaanesh. But there are a cohort of rules that a majority of the player base, more people find to be negative when they're in the game than not. Okay?
Yep.
And this is true in a lot of different games, by the way. This isn't like something unique to Warhammer. Okay? You know, there's a reason there's not 2-mana counterspells in modern Magic.
Right.
Because at 2 mana, it was just too negative. You put it at like 4 mana, it's fine. Everybody moves on. Right?
Yep.
Okay. Just because of the pace and how often you can do it and how it happens in the game and how it rears its ugly head. Total Eclipse is what I picked here for this one, right? This falls under a broader category that I think is touching a third rail. Hades, I appreciate it. You're wrong. I'll say it that easy, brother. I know you're here to defend, but like this falls into a broader category of messing with command points, like this core element of the game.
Yeah.
And it is a third rail, right?
So this is disproportionate. Like the impact of messing with, you're talking about the third rail being command points. This is disproportionately impacting because it touches every aspect of the game.
Right.
Okay. So, like for me, you upscaled my category. Like my critique was towards command point things. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And my big critique here is that it messes with the core engine of how the game functions.
Yes.
And yes, it doesn't affect OBR right now, but you're assuming that your like OBR stuff isn't just going to go away and run on the actual engine that everybody else does moving forward. The reality is that this touches Battle Shock, this touches combat buffs, this touches defensive buffs, this touches movement abilities, this touches core mechanics in some armies.
Yep.
That allow them to like mobility. Like it touches everything for almost no opportunity cost to this army.
Yep. Yes, especially in an army where this is theoretically possible to just auto cast in an unbindable way.
Exactly.
In an unbindable way, whatever the proper word would be. Non-unbindable way, I don't know. And so like.
And this goes for all abilities. Like, to be very clear, like the Skaven ability that stole command points.
Cunning, yes. I agree. Like, I still use it all the time because I'm a bad person. But at least it's happening on a 6. But you're right. To me, the appropriate implementation of this is the Tomb Banshee.
Sure. Sure. It's
right?
targeted. It's specific.
I have to move a character into a relatively danger close range, and then I have to do something to target a specific unit.
Yes.
Right. And now what I haven't done is altered the entire way you're going to play the game.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like there is a way to use this kind of mechanic to futz around with the way people play with command points. Right. Yes. Another good example of this where it works okay is like who's the one that like if they're within a certain range, then on a 5+ the command isn't received. There you go. Yeah.
Kurdos.
Right. Fine. Again, Kurdos has to move up. You've got to be in his aura. He's got to be, relatively close. He's doing it on a certain roll, right? And in that way, you can play around that. Like there is the key here with this thing versus the other ones we're talking about is the ones we're talking about still allow for interactivity.
Yeah.
I can choose how I'm going to move your unit. I can choose to target your Tomb Banshee or something like that, right?
Right.
I may not have the ability to stop you from doing this.
Right. No, it's true. And like, so it's funny. A lot of people marveled at, I'm just going to jump back. Like I played my final game at Vault Wars was against Lumineth, right? And a lot of people were just like marveling that I did so well. But one of the things that my army didn't need was command points ever.
Yeah.
Like everything that I did, like I don't defense, I had my aura of +1 to hit, multiple auras of +1 to hit. So I didn't actually need to all out offense. I didn't have my new stuff to spend command points to increase ward save. And so I just would sit on buckets of command points every game. And so it didn't affect me, but everyone else, it crippled their game plan.
Right. Yeah, and Taylor said, have I played with this rule yet? I've played against this rule. As Tom knows, I have a regular Lumineth opponent who regularly brings multiple casters with this spell and will alternate through contemplates and or tech lists to make sure that basically the game is always under this ability. So I have played many games under Total Eclipse. Like I am very used to what this feels like.
With many different armies, not just one army.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's the size, the scope, the efficacy of this thing that results in the NPE. And by the way, this is just one example. I certainly don't I picked the Lumineth one because it's the most relevant.
Yeah.
But you could also put alpha shooting mortal wound type stuff into this, where at the top of that, I can keep people off board, then drop half my army on you, shoot with mortal wounds, and kill everything you have of value. I would put that in the same massive NPE category.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same feeling because all the key with interactivity, what came out of our survey, and I totally agree with it, is when you remove interactivity. Right.
Yes.
And this does that, as well as things like the alpha shoot where I'm completely in safety and ambush. I drop on you, pop on you, kill everything you have that is of high value. That kind of alpha shoot removes all interactivity. I can't stop you from your ambush. I can't crowd you out because you have a ridiculous range. I can't protect myself with all at defense because you're going to mortal wound through right out. Right?
Yep.
That kind of thing is just as big of NPE. And it falls into the same exact category. So this would be your shoot cast type of nonsense, where it just drops and pops. Same thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, then for command points, just to jump back, command points inherently, at least when in using them on your opponent's turn, are all reactive.
Right.
Like their defense, your defense buffing, you can trigger abilities.
You're redeploying, you're unleashing on them. Yep.
Right. And inherently what this says is you don't get to play anymore in these other phases.
Yep.
You just receive what I'm going to do. And it smacks of like a Death and Taxes style Magic play. Because what you're doing is you're taxing them and you're limiting what they are actually able to do because of the extra cost. And for a lot of people, that's just not a play style that's enjoyable.
Sure. Yep. Exactly. Rerolling one's Jack coming in saying shootcast is not nonsense. I didn't say all shootcast. I said alpha drop shootcast. And Reg Show fan, I don't want to cripple Stormcast. I have the army. I love them. Okay. But that particular playstyle is pretty toxic. And there has to be a better way to fix that book. All right.
I mean, as is Seraphon Lizard alpha shooting, as is KO alpha shooting. Like, I'm going to say that, like, at the height of its power.
Yeah, sure.
It's just jank.
Yep. Sin type on this one, this is a mortal sin. Absolutely. This is a good way to completely fracture your relationship. So this one is a problem. Oh, I mean, you're not wrong, Reg Show fan, but is what it is. They need to like buff the appropriate stuff and fix the other things, as always.
Yep.
Penance, play under this effect for 10 games and then rewrite the spell lore. That's the penance here.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we go to the next one, by the way, hit like, because this will be a controversial show. I'm sure plenty of people would dislike this because when we talk about bad rules, we're going to hit enough things that some people like, and they'll be like, nah, I'm angry at you now because you mentioned the thing I like. So hit like, and to counter out all of that inevitable hate that we're going to get. Okay, you ready for the next one, Tom?
Yeah.
Oop. All right, the next one is a big category. The next one I call worthless gambling. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Worthless gambling is when you have an ability that has like way too much going on for way too little benefit. Okay. Okay.
We're looking at you 60 packs of gets on 5s and 5s.
Well, we're not there yet. I'm going to get to.
Okay.
I actually put them in a different category.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I did.
Okay.
See,
okay.
I define worthless gambling as like, here I've got the bindings of Slanesh. You ready for this? This is an artifact from Slanesh. Okay. At the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy hero within 3 inches of the bearer. All right, already this is ridiculous. Okay. And then roll 2d6. If that roll is greater than the hero's move characteristic, which, by the way, many heroes have move characteristics that are just so high, this is actually undoable. Like, it's literally impossible.
Congratulations, you have a 12-inch move.
Right. Exactly. If you achieve all of this nonsense, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that hero until end of the phase. Well, hoodly hoo. Thank goodness I jumped through all those hoops. I have a picture of a Thunderscorn here, of a Shaggoth, because his Thunderscorn healing would fall into this. Is if you've got if you happen to tie on the priority roll, then you can roll a 4 up. Yeah, fun. Love that. Then I get a minor healing. Da Bad Moon would fall under this one, just in general, because like the bonuses are often not in the right place, often hard. Rolling it to be wherever it needs to be is silly. And then obviously things like Soul Slice. Basically, if you've got a gate and then roll 2d6 against bravery or a characteristic, stop. Just stop. Stop talking. Stop writing. These things are terrible. Okay? And so worthless gambling is what that comes down to, Tom. You understand what I'm saying? Where you have to roll a bunch of things, okay, to make an effect happen.
Yep.
And that effect in the end is not actually worth it. Right?
Yep.
It's just not actually giving you anything good.
Right.
And
so you're saying like rolling 6s. Well, no, that's not fair to Chuck. I was gonna say rolling 6s for
original recipe Kraith.
Yes.
I mean, the difference there was it was actually a potent thing that was coming on the back side, and it was only one gate. Roll a die, get a 6, your whole unit fights again, and it's real scary.
Yes.
Right?
This would be like roll a dice for every unit of every model in the unit. That model fights again.
It would be at the end of combat.
Sure.
Roll 2d6. If you roll under the unit's bravery, then they get +1 bravery during that battle shock phase.
Oh, that's fair.
If they fought this turn.
Yep. Rolling dice for dice sake, that doesn't actually affecting the game.
Yes, worthless gambling, right? You're just rolling dice for dice sake. You're not actually affecting the game. Yes.
Yep.
I don't know if you caught it, but like the Thunderscorn healing so perfectly falls into this, where it's like gate, you tie on the priority roll. Effect, which is already like a ridiculous gate for a rule.
Yep.
And then effect, roll a die for every Thunderscorn model. On a 4 up, they get to heal D3 wounds. Well, good. Yeah. Yay. A thing I probably don't need on the majority of my units. Okay.
Yep.
I think worthless gambling by the way, might be where the new guy from Nighthaunt, that new bookkeeper model guy, and his ability.
Scriptor Mortis, yeah.
Scriptor Mortis, I think, might fall into worthless gambling. Right?
You know what? You know how that should function? Is like the Emerald Host ability. Like the Emerald Host ability is his ability, but good.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's very funny. All right. Sin type on this. This is a venial sin for much the same reason the first one. Because largely you'll just ignore these things. You won't pick these command traits. You won't pick these artifacts. You won't care about these abilities. If it's bad enough for the unit. The only problem where it becomes bad is when it's something like the Bad Moon, where it's your whole allegiance ability. It's probably a mortal sin for goblins. But for most people, they can just ignore this stuff. It becomes ipsum lorem text, right?
Yeah.
I agree with Haywo, by the way, who said a good test is, if this worked 100% of the time, would it be good?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you removed all the gates and it was just working, would it be good? And if the answer is still no, then you know you're in a bad place.
Yeah. Stop writing.
Make an army list using only these abilities and play 10 games. This is all you get to use. You have to pick every one of these stupid command traits and artifacts and everything like this, and only these models, and play 10 games. And then you have to come back and write me 3 good artifacts and spells. That's your penance. Okay. The next one's called Bad at Any Price. So this is where I have your goblin complaint, okay?
Yeah.
So here I have the Shooters stat line as an example where they've got shooting weapons on 5-ups and 5-ups at 16 inches, and then melee weapons on 5-ups and 5-ups. I also have a picture of the steam tank. I'm assuming non-hero steam tank here. I couldn't find a picture of one with the top closed because the picture all just has the guy poking out the top. And then the Slangor fiends. The little Slangor guys. Okay. This one's self-explanatory. When you write a scroll that's so bad that it's just, there's no price you can effectively point it at to make it worth playing. Yeah. That's it.
So there's in which, and for me, the big sin here is actually the waste of time.
Yes.
Okay, because let's say you have that pack of 60 goblins. Cool story, man. 60 shots, right?
Yep.
So you roll 60 dice.
Okay.
And assuming you're not shooting a hero with -1 to hit.
Sure.
Right? You hit 50 times. Or no, you have
20 times.
20 times, yeah.
Yes.
So now you roll 20 more dice. And you wound like 6 times.
Roughly, yep.
With no rend, you're going to do on average like 3 damage against a 4-up.
Correct.
For rolling all of those dice.
Right.
Like, you've just spent how much time? And then measuring ranges for 16 inches for all 60 goblins. Yep. To make sure they're within range.
Right.
Like, you've just wasted 7 minutes of our time for maybe 3 wounds.
Right. Yep. Yes, people are also calling this the Cygor rule. I think I could have called it Cygorian War Scrolls as well, as I think Haywo said at the beginning.
Yes.
And yes, I agree. The Cygor being another great example of things that could fit in here, right?
Yeah, as Zach said, technically 9 of those goblins have nets, so it's 51 dice out of your 60.
That is true. A bunch of dudes do have nets. So, like, I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. bad war scrolls. I still have this as a sin type of venial. Because unless the whole army consists of these, you can play around them. My real problem, actually, I would identify something even deeper with this, Tom. Okay? Yeah. Like, you're absolutely right on the time-wasting thing. But these create trap choices, especially for newer players, low-information players, who think steam tanks are cool. Or, hey, those new Slangor look awesome. Because, like, they do, right? They're really good-looking models.
Yeah.
And it just creates these trap choices that new players run into, and they don't understand why they're having a bad time. Because they don't understand the whole meta construction of why this scroll is innately bad.
Yeah.
Right? So trap choices are just terrible. I'm okay with an underperformer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you look at something and you're like, that's kind of underperforming. Like, maybe it could come down some points. You know, like in the Night Haunt show, we had the big discussion about Lady O.
Yeah.
Okay. And, like, maybe Lady Oleander is slightly overpriced.
Sure.
Maybe she's not. Okay.
Sure.
But she's not a bad war scroll. Like, there is a point cost for her that is valid. Like,
I look at her and I would run her, like, in some builds.
Right. And you can pick your thing like this, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's funny because, you know, the Steam Tank Commander is fine. He's like an underperformer. He's probably not worth his points completely, but he's fine. Yep. He can be valid. He can be a valid part of the game, right?
Yep.
And I've had good luck with him when you sort of use him the right way in a list. Right. But when he loses the hero keyword and it's just this thing that's not a monster, it's not anything, it's just...
And it's not doing a role.
No, it has no role, no function. There's just no appropriate price you can point it at.
Right.
It becomes nothing more than a trap that fools newer players.
Right. Right.
Penance. Your penance is to play an army of just these scrolls. And then do a bottom-up development phase for each battle tome from now on. Where after you write everything in the design phase, you go back through with a development, an actual, discrete, different human being development pass who looks at this from a bottom-up perspective and rebalances and re-strengthens where things need to be strengthened.
And for a bottom-up, so top-down is, for those that don't understand, is moving from concept, the idea, down into rules, right? Mm-hmm. The bottom-up development looks at all the rules and says, what does this thing do in the game?
Right.
And is it accomplishing the thing that it does? Yeah. If it does not, you need to go back to the drawing board and fix that thing so it does the thing it's supposed to be doing in the game, not conceptually from the high concept idea of the description.
Right. Exactly. You got it. Okay. This one I have is called Rolls on Rolls. Okay. When players are allowed to make too many rolls to mitigate the randomness of the game. Now, this is something we've been addressing.
I don't know that this is a problem. No.
Sure.
Says the re-rollable save, multi-ward save, Chaos Warrior running player.
Yeah, and hey, well, you're exactly correct. Both ways are good. Like, there's no problem with doing top-down design. You just need to bottom-up develop then.
Yeah,
right?
You do both. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be doing both as part of any healthy design phase. Here I have the Auric Runefather, Tom. In this example being where he not only has a bodyguard rule, right?
He has an armor save.
He has an armor save, of course.
Yep.
And then he has a bodyguard rule where on a 3-up he can pass it to his retinue.
Yep.
Okay. Which bodyguard rules innately I don't have a problem with now that we've largely cleaned them up. Largely. Okay.
Yep.
However, this little doofus and his buddy still have the problem where they're they still get to allocate over to the other unit, who then gets another ward roll. Okay. Which could potentially be a 4-up, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we're going to go 4-up, 3-up, 4-up. Yeah. That is way too much negation potential.
And it's the same thing as like old school re-rollable ward saves.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like Doc's old 5-up re-rollable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where they get their normal armor save and then a 5-up re-rollable, which is just too much.
Yeah, and like I said, we've largely removed this from the game, right? We can't stack ward saves anymore. We've gotten rid of a lot of like rerolls to hits and wounds, which is all good, because I think we need to understand the power of rerolls and how they not only are they incredibly time consuming. To go back to your point, right?
Yeah.
That is something that takes up a lot of time and slows the game down.
Yeah.
But when it's also then directly influencing in a strong way your ability to mitigate, negate, or control what should be the randomness of the game and warp the odds in a really unhealthy way.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Hey, LOL. Sure. What's NPE? Negative play experience, broadly categorized. Meaning like things that just by their very existence in the game tend to piss people off. Yes.
It generates experiences that make people not want to play the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's a really good summation. There aren't a lot of these, and that's why this pissed me off so much when this came out.
Right.
Because every other bodyguard,
we fixed so much. Yes.
Right. When it was kind of everywhere, I was willing to accept it. You know, like it's just well, everything sucks, so this is just a thing that sucks or whatever, right?
Right.
But now that we're trending in such a good direction, and all the new books have fixed their bodyguard rules, right? Where it's like you make that bodyguard roll in place of any ward save that person has. Cool, good. And then when it transfers over, that transfer unit just has to eat it. One roll. Right. I'm okay with an armor save and then a negation roll. I'm good.
Yep.
Right? That's fine. That's the thing that's in the game, and it's fine. That works perfectly fine. That's what you need to have defensive units. I'm good with it. That's healthy. When we start adding additional rolls on rolls, that's where I have a problem. Okay. Sin type here is venial still, okay? Because, again, it's not the worst thing in the world. You can pull these apart. It's bad, but it's not crippling to the entire ecosystem or anything. It's just annoying, right?
Right. And they're at this point, they're sporadic.
Right.
And so they're proud nails. They're not actually systemic problems.
Yeah, exactly. SJ Arcade say they snuck this bodyguard rule with ward reroll under the 4+ rally smokescreen. That's true.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, Strength Hammer. Certainly there can be some NPE humans. That is definitely true. Penance. They have to fight armies with only these abilities. Like, I want them to fight a Fire Slayer army that has these abilities for 5 games, and they're only allowed to play Gits. Okay? So they must pilot Gits for 5 games against something like Fire Slayers.
Fire Slayers or Legion of the First Prince. Go enjoy your games.
Yes. Then standardize the effect and rules language and realize why you shouldn't do this.
Like, the reality is this. They should have a database, so they should have templates for rules like this that just get copy-pasted in.
Which they do. I don't know why they decided to change this.
Yeah.
That's what's even more mystifying to me.
Yeah.
They do have a glossary of terms they start from. A singular, like, book that has all the text in it. Yes. I can't explain it. Okay.
Maybe it's the playtester's fault. Just slipping in bad rules complications. Like, let's see if this one goes.
All right. The next one is called hyper efficiency. Hyper efficiency is when you are allowed to put too many things together onto a singular thing that creates like units that are just extremely difficult to deal with. Now,
I don't know what you're talking about. These are Doc is fine.
This isn't.
It's all fine.
No, that's an interesting point. Doc might actually be fine.
Right. Okay. Again, there's a time in the world, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm flippantly saying this about Doc, but there was a time in the world where Doc, like, its strength was that it could turn any unit into a super unit.
Yeah, and this is a tough one. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to be super clear here, because I don't have a problem with synergy. Synergy is like the whole part of this game.
Right.
And it's important. Like, it should be here. It's an important thing. It's of high value. And I don't have a problem with Death Stars. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, conceptually, Death Stars are fine. They should carry enough. They carry enough cost generally to balance them out. Like, you only have one active unit on a game with potentially 4 to 6 objectives, and that unit can't be everywhere at once, right? And all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where we and that's why this one's tough, because it's sort of there's some kind of line, and it's not a very bright line at all, where you cross over to where now that just becomes the auto include combo.
Yeah.
Right?
So, like Sentinels, you have a photo of Sentinels. So having 5-up shooting mortals, inherently, like, I don't like it.
Yep. Because it has an efficiency and scalability problem right away.
Right away. But I'm just like, okay, like, I can stomach this if I have to.
Sure.
But then add 6 inches onto it.
Right.
From 30 to 36 inches. And then add re-rolling all hits so you can fish for those 5-up mortals.
Right.
And then...
Yes.
And then... Yes.
Ignore line of sight, and so on and so forth.
And learn a line of sight. And, oh, by the way, they're in an aura, so they have a 5-up after save as well. So now they're not just 5-up saves, they're also 5-up wards. And then... And we can just keep... Oh, and we can teleport them wherever we want using spell lores.
Right.
And then... again, do you know what solves this?
By the way, the other example I have here, I want to get to your solution.
Yeah.
But the other example I have here, I think, is just as important, and that's the Mega Boss on Maw-Crusher, right? Yeah. Who has this exact same problem with all his, like, pile-on movement stuff.
Yeah.
Where he can just be in any, like, in a given turn, he can just be anywhere he wants, and his command ability to triple, command ability out, is just not healthy for new players. Right. I don't, this is not, to be super clear, it's not just like I picked Sentinels because they're sort of a good example, or a good shooting example, but the Maw-Crusher is just as bad. And in the NPE survey, there was a lot of people who rated those kind of melee alpha strikes as very negative.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And remember, folks, this isn't about how many times you 5-0 at a tournament, because I see somebody like Arturius who said I don't really see Lumineth placing anymore, so I don't know if it's that efficient. I'm not worried about how you do at tournaments. That is irrelevant to this discussion to a good or bad rule. Tournament players will exploit bad rules and know how to fight against bad rules. Tournament players are always the least of my concern, because skill is the most important thing at a high level of a tournament. The rules underneath, they know all the armies, they know how to play against all the armies.
The data is very clear about that skill at the highest levels, given,
If you're in the top 10 at a reasonably sized tournament, if you're on tables 1 through 5, you know basically every army, what they all do, what the combos are, what you're going to play against, and how to counter it. And if you got yourself into that position in round 5 and you aren't that person, you're not going to win.
And if you are a tournament regular, you most likely know 8 of the 10 other people that are up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because again, like, you will regularly see the same people at top tables at most events.
I'm not worried about who's winning. I'm worried about, like, is this rule healthy for the game overall? That's what a bad rule is. We didn't lay down a sort of, like, groundwork for this at the beginning with the idea of time. But it's casual killers. These things make the game more bad for a larger group of people than it makes it good for. Simplest principle. Is it doing more harm than good? Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. And, like, there's a world where you could have Sentinels doing mortals on 5-ups and they would be fine.
No, I agree, and that's what I was communicating. Is that, like, I can tolerate Sentinels on 5ing on mortals. Like, that is survivable. I can live in that world. I'm more concerned about the and. Yeah,
it is the curse of the and, right? All the things you can stack or do or so on. And so the challenge here is that it is a very soft line. Like, I'll agree, this one's tough. And this is where things like development we talked about previously really has to come into play, right?
Yep. That's my solution. Like, this only gets solved by people getting their hands dirty in development.
Right. And because sometimes you'll read something and it'll feel like this, and it's actually not. It's fine.
Yeah, right. But this is why you employ me the way you do, Vince.
Yes,
is
right.
because one of the first passes that I do with anything is look at all the and.
Right.
So I'll sit down with the equivalent of like whatever game we're testing, like the what I would call the ecosystem of data. Okay. Yep. And look at all the things that can be stacked on top of each other. And then ask, in this optimum scenario, is this problematic?
Right. Right.
Okay. And then at that point, like that's then just adjusting the margins. So if it's 6 abilities doing that, it's then making small changes on a handful of those abilities
or
to bring in
the ability to apply one of those or something like that. Yes.
Right. Exactly. Or changing the keywords as to what it can synergize with, or whatever.
Right.
Right.
And by the way,
there's not a silver bullet here.
It's not. Somebody had said the dark side of this keyword bingo, and I agree. Like lack of efficiency, the non-bow problem, right?
Yep.
That's the flip side of the sword, and I don't want that either. Like that's absolutely what we do not want. We want stress testing, right? Where you're figuring out what are the break points where the system goes offline. Oh, Gary, stress testing, not play testing. Yes, Gary, exactly. Ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like things that are going to tip over into that space, right? And just create more bad than good. And yes, there's some art to it. It's not like you can mathematically map that, right? That's why I say this is one of the toughest ones. Unfortunately, this is a mortal sin when it happens.
Math is your guidelines.
Right.
Okay. That's math should give you the red flags, right? But then actually going in and the tweaking is not a mathematical problem. It's an art.
Yep. Okay. So this is a mortal sin to me, and it's a sin of not doing enough development, right? No, Chase, it's negative. It is negative play experience. It is subjective, which is kind of the point, right? Like, because the game is subjective. What people find enjoyable is subjective, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. Subjective data. 95% of your data about the world is subjective that you interact with every day. We make, like I've talked, subjective data is the most valuable kind of data in the world. It's how we make nearly every decision you make every day. And that doesn't make it worthless. It just means that it isn't generalizable to 100%. That doesn't mean we can't learn about it if we gather enough of it. Penance for this particular sin. Watch new players play against an average player using these tools. You must sit there as the designer and watch a new player with whatever army they think they want to play. They have to play against an average player using this stuff. And watch how that new player feels.
Watch their face.
Right.
You can see it in their eyes.
Yep. And like, see how good you feel about that rule you wrote then as you watch your rules kill people's love of this game. Then go back and reduce the synergy. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. The first time some new player sets up their stuff and they're like, yay, I have an army. And then this tooled up mega boss comes screaming across the table 36 inches in, kills 2 of their units. They charge it back to fight, do nothing to it. It turns and kills that unit.
Yep.
It's like charging off turn. There you go. Yeah, that's and watch how much they enjoy that. So there you go. It's in our past show stuff. Chase, we there's if you search through the playlist, there's a negative play experience show with all the results from the survey in it.
In a robust.
Which, by the way, I draw this from. This is what Microsoft used to do to their software developers. Whenever they coded something, they would bring in people who didn't really know how to use their software or weren't good with computers and put them in a room and have them use the software that the developers just coded and have the developers watch the people try to use their software.
Anybody that's not a sociopath, it's emotionally crushing.
Crushing. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And that's it. That's my last one. There you go. Those are our sins, Tom. We did it. We got there. We did it in an hour. Like I said, folks, this is a quick show because I have to get on the road and drive. I'm going to see Adam. I'm going to see everybody. So what I'll say is, what did we miss? What didn't we talk about? I don't want to misconstrue all this. I really do think the game is in a good spot overall. I really do have a great amount of fun playing this, and the reason, but that doesn't mean we don't point out the areas for improvement. You know, in my normal life, I work on like agile software development, and at the end of every sprint, we do what we call inspect and adapt, and you look and say, no matter how good we do, right?
Yeah.
What could we have done better?
Yep.
That's just the question we're always asking ourselves, because continuous improvement is just a thing that should be happening. And so this is just me hoping to put this out there to really try to codify and categorize what I see as the proud nails, the problems, the challenges of the current system that should be resolved.
And so the irony here is that basically all of this occurs in the Lumineth book.
Well, a lot of it does, yeah. Sure, yeah. A quick recap. We'll take a minute. Hyper efficiency, we talked about it. Its problem is it's a soft thing to identify, but it allows for way too much going on in a single unit that can't be countered. It warps incentives, it warps lists, and it creates bad play experiences.
Yep.
Rolls on rolls slows the game down and creates bad structures where the randomness that is normally there as a balance factor to the game gets mitigated and controlled too strongly. Hey, what's up, Squid, by the way? Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well, Emil. Bad at any price, bad War Scrolls. Creates traps. Makes it especially bad for new players who are just taking a thing they think looks cool or wants to play. And frankly, even for veteran players who just want to play a cool unit they really like, it sucks. Worthless gambling, where you have to go through way too many gates and do way too many things to actually make something happen. And that effect being too menial and non-material to even be worth all the gates you had to pass to do it. Massive NPE, creating just a rule structure, a superstructure that by default creates more negative experience amongst the player base than it does positives. Doesn't mean everybody hates it. It means too many people hate it.
Yep.
Right. And finally, impossible abilities. Abilities that are written and look like abilities. Like they look like something you can use.
But they're just non-starters.
But it's a trap. Because, in fact, you will never do them or never qualify for them. Or even if you did accidentally, you would forget to actually activate them because they're so rarefied.
Yep.
So there we go. If we missed anything, hey, drop it down in the comments. Don't forget to hit like. As I said, this is a quick show, a controversial show. I'm sure that there will be people who are upset at me. If you take issue with anything we said here, by the way, feel free to drop those in the comments. Make it constructive. I love feedback. So tell us what we missed. Tell us what you think about our list. All that kind of stuff. And I look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget, hit like, subscribe, hit all those buttons. It's fun. If you want to support it, support the channel. There is a Patreon down below focused on the hobby and review and feedback, and it's got a really cool Discord community you can be a part of as well. Check that out. Tom, thank you very much as always. Really appreciate it. All of you out there watching, thank you so much. Sorry for the short show this week, but like I said, I do have to drive 9 hours. And on top of that, my dog spent all last night vomiting, so wasn't that fun? It was a super great night I have to now go and drive. So it's been a long 2 days for me. But at any rate, dog's fine now, by the way. Don't worry. Everything's fine. She's okay. She just ate something she shouldn't have. But she's okay. And, but thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.